There is a generational gap in the Ashina family. The truth of Genichiro's heritage is mentioned only in passing, and generally danced about by the main players in the game. This makes it absolutely tantalising to me as to what the truth of Genichiro's parents actually is. So this will be a little bit of a different video than the usual videos that I do for Sekiro, because today I will be presenting to you a couple of different theories. Number 1. Genichiro's remnant really tells the truth, and he was adopted out of peasantry. 2. Lady Tomoe and Isshin fathered Genichiro out of wedlock. 3. Takeru is Genichiro's father. So let's start with number 1, which is the most obvious and probably the most widely accepted theory, that Genichiro's remnant really told the truth and he was adopted out of peasantry. So as I said, the first theory is most readily accepted, and let's look at the basics by reading the remnant of Genichiro, which reads as follows. Born a peasant, Genichiro Ashina was taken in by the Ashina after his mother's death. With his country on the brink of defeat, Genichiro took to the heretical arts and mastered the lightning of Tomoe. Such heresy may be the key to saving her. So we can straight up take these to be the facts of his heritage, as the remnant does go into explicit details, that he was born a peasant and that after his mother passed, Isshin simply adopted him and brought him into the Ashina clan. There is a large theme of adoption in the game. Owl adopts Wolf and raises him as his son. Orangutan adopted Emma before Dogen would later adopt the same. Wolf calls Owl his father, and so it isn't difficult to assume that Genichiro speaks of his adopted father, Isshin, as a grandfather, as a term of respect for his age. Ashina means everything to Genichiro.
Heresy, you say? If it is for the sake of preserving Ashina. I will seize any manner of heretical strength. I will endure any burden.
He is so consumed by his twisted loyalty that he takes up the heretical arts of his Okami teacher. It seems that this low-born, adopted child was availed of every resource that the Ashina clan had to offer, as if he was the true-born heir. Isshin's retainer, Lady Tomoe, mentored him in combat. Indeed, we can see him fighting in the airborne flamboyant style of the Okami warriors, including their airborne archery techniques. He would even go as far to drinking the rejuvenating sediment in order to attempt desperately to save Ashina. To me, the psychological reasoning for these actions is pretty clear. It is because he believes that he was not born into the Ashina clan specifically, and is of lower class, and thus needs to try harder to prove himself Isshin's true heir. Now, we know that in his adoptive family, he is considered to be the grandson of Isshin, and by Isshin himself. Yet Isshin doesn't seem to care a huge amount for his adoptive grandchild, for when you defeat Genichiro at the top of Ashina Castle, Isshin says this.
My grandson Genichiro was bewitched by the rejuvenating waters. You did well to put a stop to that for me. You have my thanks.
He also calls Genichiro his pitiful grandson, as he is revived from Genichiro's body as Isshin the Sword Saint. He also of course works against Genichiro through Lady Emma, helping Sekiro, mainly because he does not want to use the dragon's heritage as Genichiro does. And it is possibly considered a weakness by Isshin, as he was a man who was able to defeat his enemies in face-to-face combat. However, he maybe would not be so quick to work against his real grandson, his blood grandson, and so we can perhaps take Isshin's actions of working against Genichiro as further evidence of the fact that he is not a real blood relative. Not much more needs to be said about this argument, given that it's the most straightforward out of the theories I presented at the beginning of this video. Yet one question still remains of this. Why would they adopt a peasant, and why this particular peasant? So there could be varying reasons for this. Firstly, it could simply be an act of charity, either out of genuine charity to make themselves look good, or secondly, it could be because they needed an heir to carry on the Ashina name, as Isshin did not have any blood heirs. Third is that he is part peasant and part Ashina clan, Bear with me on this, as we read a particular portion of Genichiro's remnant again. It reads, Genichiro Ashina was taken in by the Ashina after his mother's death. So he was taken in after his mother's death, specifically, and there is no mention of the father here, and so to me it leaves open the possibility that whilst his mother, who raised him initially, was a peasant, that the father may have been the reason that the clan adopted him. Could he have been a member of the Ashina aristocracy, or one of the retainers? Could it be that Isshin did actually have a son, and it was this son who fathered the peasant-born Genichiro? Could it have been Lord Takeru? Could it have been Lord Isshin himself, or some other named member of the aristocracy? This theory is very much possible to me, and with a mention of Ashina heritage on the table, let us move on to theory 2. Lady Tomoe and Isshin fathered Genichiro. So, there are two other people who have reputedly lived in Ashina Castle, yet no concrete reason as to why they stayed there is ever really given. Why did Lady Tomoe and Lord Takeru live in the Ashina Castle, the capital building of the Ashina clan? I believe that unlocking this secret could be key to understanding this theory. These two characters were both there at the time of Isshin's reign, for Emma remembers them, even knowing where their supposed graves were.
I saw it that day beneath the branches of the Everblossom tree. Lady Tomoe tried to commit suicide.
Emma will later tell us a memory of hers, remembering seeing Lady Tomoe and Lord Takeru by the Everblossom attempting to achieve purification. Lord Kuro also relays to us that Lord Takeru, who was also of the dragon's heritage, used to live here.
I'm told that long ago, there was another divine heir living here in Ashina Castle. His name was Lord Takeru.
And finally, Isshin tells us that Tomoe was the mentor to Lord Genichiro. All these together make it pretty clear that these two inhabited the castle during Isshin's golden years. I've now discussed these two characters in a couple of videos, but given this theory, it is worth discussing them again. They are both from Fountainhead Palace. For Lord Takeru, a couple of pieces of lore refer to Fountainhead Palace as his home. For example, the aromatic branch item reads as follows. The Everblossom is a sakura tree, and is such ripe with nostalgia. Takeru would likely gaze upon this branch once it bloomed, reminded of home. His home being the locale which holds the original sakura tree, Fountainhead Palace. So again, it's pretty clear that his homeland is the Fountainhead Palace, leaving us to believe he may well have been a palace noble, given that these are the only really kind of male characters that inhabit this region, and it's what I believe. Likewise, Lady Tomoe was an Okami clanswoman who came from Fountainhead Palace to Ashina Castle. For the floating passage weapon art reads as follows. While in Ashina combat art, it was taught by an outsider, and as such is considered heretical. The master of this technique crossed the floating passage and descended to Ashina. Her name was Tomoe. To me, Takeru was a noble that existed in Fountainhead Palace, but was also one of the dragon's heritage, and Tomoe would become his oathsworn. We know from his various notes that Takeru, like Kuro, was not a big fan of the dragon's heritage, and the effect it had on people, and so it would make sense that they would want to leave Fountainhead Palace in search of a way to do so. Isshin would have taken them both in, probably because he recognised Takeru's power and sympathised with his plight. Maybe initially Isshin would have attacked them, recognising Ashina's old enemies, the Okami, before falling for Lady Tomoe and taking them in. She was also the combat instructor who taught Genichiro how to fight, in the way of Tomoe, being the title given to this unusual fighting style. When he uses his airborne attacks and lightning-infused strikes, much like the Okami warrior women of Fountainhead Palace, we can see that there is definitely a link here between the combat styles. I have previously established why Lady Tomoe is an Okami warrior, so if you want to catch up on that, please check the link in the description below. But to catch up, she was a native of Fountainhead Palace, and she came to live in Ashina Castle, much like Lord Takeru did. Yet to me this has always seemed a little odd. Why do they actually live here? What claim do they have to the castle? What claim do they have to the Ashina clan? You could just explain it that they were useful allies to Isshin, or simply were given safe haven, but perhaps there's something more here, something that's been obscured, something that's been hidden from the public. Let's start with Lady Tomoe. Evidently she is not related to Isshin, given she is an Okami from Fountainhead Palace, and in my opinion, when he speaks of her, he speaks of someone that he greatly admires, maybe even loves, rather than a family member. For he says this,
Tomoe, there aren't many masters of the sword like her. To see her fight, it's like she's dancing. When you look into her eyes, you feel as if you're being drawn into the depths of the ocean. I was completely taken by her, and it almost killed me. I've lived a long life, but that was the closest I've come to death.
So Isshin uses some very interesting words here to describe Lady Tomoe. When you look into her eyes, you feel as if you're being drawn into the depths of the ocean. I was completely taken by her, and it almost killed me. That was the closest I have come to death. So initially this may read just as a warrior's analysis of a worthy opponent, someone who respects Tomoe's tactics and swordsman skill, and the bewitching of an opponent, and the closest he has come to death could literally mean she almost bested him in combat and almost killed him. However, I now read this a little differently. I read it as though he is speaking of a long-lost lover. I was completely taken by her, is what he says. Maybe he's not talking about a literal battle, but instead falling in love with her, as it was something that almost killed him. Love is a powerful and dangerous force, and in ancient Greek culture, love, or eros, was seen as a double-edged sword, something that could raise you high, or destroy you, because there was nothing more consuming or intoxicating than his love. This too could have been true of the warrior Isshin, who was unbeatable in physical combat, but was powerless in the face of his love for Tomoe. Also, Isshin values combat prowess above all else. Does it not make sense that Isshin would fall for a woman who is more skilled in bladecraft than he? This particular dialogue really makes me feel like Isshin's closest experience to love was with Tomoe. Although you don't really need to link this to Genichiro's heritage, I think it is very much implied that these two did have a romantic relation. Either way, Takeru would eventually return to the Divine Realm, enwrapped in the aroma of the Fountainhead Palace, never to be seen again. Tomoe would evidently stay in here, and end up training Genichiro, as we learn from Isshin. However, there is also another bit of lore that refers to her training of him, and that is the Spiral Cloud Passage combat art from the Mushin esoteric text, and it reads as follows. Tomoe would watch her young master as he gazed longingly at the coiling clouds. This sight meant everything to her. So we can see there was a really close bond between the mentor and her pupil. Yet why would she choose to do this? And why did it mean so much to her to train her master, Genichiro, in the arts of the Okami? I see her mentoring of Genichiro as a possible indicator of familial affection, a reason as to why she would take him under her wing, and as to why it would mean so much that her possible family member was learning the ways of her ancestors. Genichiro moves so well as an Okami warrior, and has mastered the heretical arts like no other human. Admittedly, we can learn little bits from the combat art, but he truly fights exactly like an Okami, and it seems so natural to him. Perhaps this is hiding a secret Okami human heritage. She mentors young Genichiro because he is related to her. Tomoe and Takeru came to Ashina as divine heir and oathsworn, before Isshin and Tomoe began an affair, and it possibly fathered a half-breed Okami human child. Let us return to the lore found in the Floating Passage combat art. While in Ashina combat art, it was taught to an outsider, and is such considered heretical. I believe that this kind of understanding about heretical arts is key to understanding why, if this theory is true, why Genichiro would refer to Isshin as his grandfather, and not his father. Firstly, he doesn't know the truth, and the reason he doesn't know the truth is because of the Okami heritage. As mentioned, the ways of the Okami are considered heretical, and it is because these are the old enemies of the Ashina. The Sabimaru prosthetic tool reads as follows. The blue poisonous rust on the Sabimaru's blade applies poison status. Wielded in wars of old, the blade's blue rust was used to drive off inhuman Okami warrior women. Even now, it is likely to be effective against their descendants. So the Okami are not only inhuman, but are actually the enemies of Ashina, and thus there's probably a lot of hatred against the Okami within Ashina. Even using their combat arts, as Genichiro does, is frowned upon and considered to be forbidden. So how would the people of Ashina and the aristocracy react if they knew their lord Ishin had an affair with one of them? How would they obey Commander Genichiro if they found out he was a half-blood Okami? This is a story that I think is very possible now after looking into it, and I think it could be the reason that Genichiro has grown up thinking he is peasant-born, and that Ishin is only his adoptive grandfather, as it would not be wise for the people of Ashina to know of Ishin's relations with an inhuman Okami warrior. Like his mother, Genichiro fights in an inhuman matter, and it could be a testament to his possible heritage, and it would explain why Lady Tomoe was so determined to be Genichiro's mentor, and why him learning her ways of her ancestors meant so much to her. So with that being said, there is a final theory that I'd like to look at, and this is just another possibility as to why Genichiro's heritage may be linked to Ashina Castle, and that is Takeru is Genichiro's father. So this final theory is a little bit more out there, and I want to discuss it because I do think it's possible. And this final theory is kind of separate issue of whether Ishin and Tomoe were lovers. You can accept that or you can't, and it can still go with this theory either way. And admittedly, there's not a lot of evidence that I can point to, like there was with Tomoe, to make this leap. Simply apart from Takeru's presence within Ashina Castle as a possible father figure to Genichiro. Now, Takeru was essentially brought in as Lord Ishin's retainer when he and Tomoe came down from Fountainhead Palace. Takeru and Tomoe would struggle with his battle with Severance. Yet is it possible that during this time, Takeru would have met someone within the Ashina peasantry and fathered a child with them? And if Ishin and Tomoe were lovers, after the disappearance of her lord, could Tomoe have not asked Ishin to bring her old lord's child into the fold as a favour to her, given that she was very loyal to Lord Takeru? And thus it could also explain her bond with the young Genichiro. That's all I've got on that one. It's just a feeling that I have that Takeru could possibly be a father of Genichiro, given his presence in the castle and his mysterious disappearance. But admittedly this is a bit of a leap, and it's probably the least likely out of the three theories I presented. In a way, Takeru's possible involvement is a sub-theory under point 1 of this video, in that Takeru's son was born into peasantry, but then adopted into the clan. So where do I stand on all of this? What theory do I think is the most plausible? Well, I think the third one is a bit left field and probably not likely, but I liked it entertaining the idea that Takeru played more of a role in the story. The Tomoe and Ishin story is certainly one that has a lot more merit than the Takeru one, and whilst I think it is implied that they were lovers, I don't think that necessarily means they have to be Genichiro's parents at the same time. They aren't one and together. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if they release a Tomoe DLC down the line and it reveals this connection. Overall, however, I lean on a theory that is mentioned under heading 1 of this video, that is that while his mother is a peasant, his father was someone from the Ashina clan, be that Ishin, Takeru, or someone else in the clan. There is one piece of real-life inspiration from the Sengoku era that could maybe tell us a parallel of this character. A Reddit post by the user Immortal Thundergod 79 was a great post which described the real-life characters and inspirations from the Sengoku era that they believed inspired the characters and the Ashina clan, and I will link this post below and I highly recommend that you read it. And in this, he matches Genichiro to Ashina Murataka, who was adopted by the Ashina clan to continue the family line, and in 1584 he was assassinated at a young age, as he had become unpopular amongst his retainers. So if this is the true inspiration for Genichiro, we can see parallels to the story of Genichiro in Sekiro game. Genichiro was technically assassinated quite young at the hands of Sekiro, in essence, although he did kill himself, as a result of his extreme methods, which made enemies of Sekiro and Lord Kuro, who otherwise would not have been his enemy. Could this suggest, as I stated, that he was distantly related to the Ashina clan, as in the real historical figure, though he was peasant-born? Even though he is illegitimate, Isshin saw an opportunity to carry on the Ashina name, as he had not a true-born heir himself, and this is the historical parallel that the Reddit user draws. This is probably the suggestion that I am leaning towards now, as I believe that a combination of Genichiro being peasant-born being true, but also having a link to the Ashina clan, so that his adoption makes a little more sense as to why it was him in particular that was chosen. So thanks guys, I know it's a little bit of a different lore video, exploring some various theories. I find Genichiro's heritage very interesting. I know a lot of people online are just simply looking at his remnant and going, yep, that's it, and totally appreciate that, given that the remnants seem to be more trustworthy than Dark Souls items, but we still have to explore these possibilities, as Lady Tomoe and Takeru certainly have more about them than we know currently, but maybe we'll learn more in the DLC. Once again, I'd like to thank the Embraced One for taking some of the great footage you'll see in this video that would have been a bit beyond me. As always, his links are in the description below, please check him out, and I'd really appreciate that. So I hope you enjoyed this video guys. If you did, please give it a like and a thumbs up. I would just like to say a thanks to my patrons, who should be on the screen now, and if you'd like to become a patron at Demon of Lore, please check out the links below. But till next time guys, have a great day, and thanks for checking out this video.